I'm Morgan. I'm a huge dirt biker. All right, guys, you saw the thumbnail. Let's do battle. We are talking about oil today on the internet. If there has ever been a topic that gets people fired up, it's the topic of oil. You know what? That's what I do here at the Huge Dirt Biker, is we try to get you guys fired up, get you battling in the comments. I want the keyboard warriors coming in. I want the guys who know everything coming in. It definitely got to get the engineers. Well, I'm an engineer, and got to get those guys. I definitely want to hear from, well, I've been doing this for 50 years, and maybe even Jeff will join us with a don't talk to me about anything. I just want to tell you about my thousands of years of experience in the motorcycle industry. And I want all of you guys fired up about oil. Let's talk about it, okay? Let's start with Rotella. Here we go. We are talking about Rotella oil, guys. Here's the thing. I have been vehemently against using Rotella for a long time. I decided to do a little research, okay? Because I wanted to bring truth and knowledge here to the channel. So I did a little research, and you guys who say that it meets the JASO-MA standard, you are correct. Well, it depends actually on which Rotella you use. The synthetic absolutely meets that. What that means, again, we're educating here at the Huge Dirt Biker Labs. It's the Japanese Automotive Standard Organization, and it was set up because they didn't feel like the American one was doing a good enough job. Anyway, the MA is the part that's important. The JASO, that's just the organization that does it. The MA is the important. That is the one that is good for wet clutches, okay? So I agree. Whatever, hats off to you who knew about that and said it's good for wet clutches. That's great. Here's the deal. I went through all of Rotella's site, scoured it, and I didn't spend my entire life doing it, so I don't know, but I didn't see a single place where Rotella Shell, the company who makes it, recommends using it in anything other than a car. The smallest thing they mention to use it in is a car. Obviously, diesel engines are what they do the most of, and that goes down to cars, passenger cars. As far as I can tell, that is all they recommend. Now, I do not disagree that a ton of you have for 78 years I've put, fine, that's fine. Honestly, the thing about motor oil is that clean oil is generally better than dirty oil, period, regardless of its JASO and all that good stuff. What that MA means, for those of you who don't know, is that they make motor oil to be slippery, right? You want things to slip past each other without friction, but you don't want to slip clutch plates past other clutch plates because that obviously doesn't work. You want the clutch to grab, so you have to have a certain amount of friction in there, and they put friction modifier, anyway, all this stuff to make it work. But anyway, back to Rotella. If you want to use Rotella, that's awesome. I don't care. Here's my thing. Here's why I think it may not be the best for your motorcycle. Again, I know the engineer guys and all those guys are coming in, and bring it. Let's do this. Let's fight about it. You know what? Show your data. I love that. You guys comment, you show all the data. Honestly, it's good for the world to get all that information out there, because a lot of people don't want to go and do the research I already did. Here's the thing I'm a little concerned about is the RPM and the heat range out of a motorcycle engine. Motorcycle engines get way hotter and rev way higher than any, not any car engine, but any normal car or diesel truck engine, because V8s just don't turn 10.5, 12,000 RPMs. That's all there is to it, unless they're crazy high performance ones. So that's my thing about Rotella. I get it. I admit that, yes, it is good for motorcycle. The JASO-MA is for motorcycle stuff with wet clutches. Fair enough. But Rotella does not recommend putting it in a motorcycle. That's all there is to it. All right, now let's go to gear oil, because we have my lovely two-stroke back here. I'm a two-stroke guy. I like that two-strokes have gear oil. I like that Hondas has separate gear oil. I don't love that whole system because then you pump oil one way or the other if a seal fails and you blow up motors. But with 4-strokes, it's a little bit weird having two things. But these things have a separate transmission. It's just a transmission and a clutch. That is literally all there is. There's no pump. There's no anything else like that. It's not lubing the cylinder, main bearings, or any of the connecting rod or any of that stuff, right? So it's just transmission and a water pump and all that stuff too. But here's the thing. I like gear oil in gear boxes. Does that mean you can't run, the 1040 motorcycle oil? Of course not. That will work too, because obviously that's made to work in a transmission in a 4-stroke that's all one oil, so it's totally fine. It'll work just fine. I, though, have found that 80 weight Gear Saver, fully synthetic, works best in all of my 2-strokes. It works so well. And actually, the CRFs that have the split oil, that Gear Saver works so well in that. It shifts better, the clutch grabs better. They last, it just lasts a really long time. I've never had to replace a transmission part ever since I started using Gear Saver. I've told that story about running it out of oil because I poked a hole anyway, and it didn't damage anything. It raced 70 miles with basically no oil in it. And so I'm a big fan of Gear Saver. Also, it's less money than putting Motorex stuff that they recommend. I think Gear Saver right now is about 13 or 14 bucks a quart, and you need 750 or 13 or 14 bucks a liter, and you need 750, 800 milliliters. And anyway, so it's not terribly expensive. I like it a lot. Again, fight about it. Let's bring it. I know that KTM calls for like some 1440 or, 1540, something. It's like gear oil, but in a motor oil weight rating, which I don't know. Anyway, also, quick note, 80 weight gear oil is not as thick as you might think it is. 80 weight does not mean that its viscosity is thicker than a 1550 or something like that, like as far as when you touch it. It just is how it holds up to heat and shear and all that stuff. Now let's talk about synthetic versus non-synthetic. This is gonna bring a lot of fights. I like it. Let's do it. I personally do not see the need for most people to run synthetic motor oil. It really just doesn't make that big a difference in a normal trail riding, kind of normal human experience, right? The biggest difference between synthetic and non-synthetic, as long as it meets all the same JASO standards, the wet clutch and all that stuff, the biggest difference is that synthetic will hold up to heat way longer and time. It takes longer for it to break down and more heat for it to break down. So if you're racing supercross, motocross, desert, something like, and you're revving your 4-stroke really, really, really high, I recommend synthetic oil because it will hold up to that abuse way better than non-synthetic. If you're a trail rider guy who just goes cruising around, sightseeing, maybe the occasional race, but you're not bouncing off the rev or something like that, honestly, saving money on oil so you can change it more often is a really, really good idea in my opinion. Buy some good non-synthetic oil. Here's my choices for that. I like Bel-Ray. The 1040 EXL is really, really good non-synthetic oil. We stock, I have it in a drum over there, is Bel-Ray 1040 non-synthetic. It's JASO, MA, blah, blah, blah. It's a motorcycle oil, but it works really well. It's non-synthetic. You can afford to change your oil twice as often financially as if you use synthetic. So I'm not a big fan of pushing synthetic, 4-stroke motor oil down people's throats. If you want to run it, great. If you're beating on it, great. Do it. That's a good idea. 2-stroke oil, guys. Here's another good one. I like it. I love fighting about 2-stroke oil. Here's the thing. In general, all the 2-stroke oil you buy, as long as it says it's for a motorcycle, for motorsports, it's all good. I wouldn't buy stuff from Walmart, and I wouldn't buy that stinking AMSOIL Sabre. I know, I knew I said that just to get you guys to comment. I wouldn't buy Sabre because it's not made for motorcycles. It's made for power equipment. We all know that. But anyway, I'm not going to go down the 100 to 1, 60 to 1. That's not what we're here to. We're just to talk about the oil. So we can have another, if you guys want to fight about that in another video, let me know, comment below, and we can definitely do that. We can talk about the science behind all that stuff. But as far as 2-stroke oil goes, honestly, it's pretty hard to buy bad two-stroke oil these days. It's all really pretty good. I personally use Motorex Crosspower 2T. Honestly, it's because I switched to it a while back to try it, and it seemed like my bike smoked less and drooled less, so I stuck with it. Also, I've taken apart lots of motors, my own and many customers that have that, that they've been using that, and the power valves are always clean, and everything is clean and happy, and I've never seen a motor blow up because of it, so that's why I stick with it. But honestly, the Bellray H1R, the Caster 927, Redline, yeah, the Amsoil Dominator, which is made for motorcycles, all that stuff is really, really good. Choose the stuff you like. Here's a little tip though. If you don't like drool on your bike, if you don't like it drooling as much and you feel like the bike's running good and all this stuff, but you're just too much drool, you don't want to lean it out anymore, all that, whatever, look for an oil with a lower flash point. That flash point is the temperature at which that oil burns. The lower that temperature, the more of it that's actually going to burn and not come out as spooge. So I honestly don't know, maybe someone here can post a chart or something of all the different flash points, and so people can make that decision. I think the Motorex comes in somewhere like, if a high flash point, low flash point, I think Motorex is somewhere on the bottom half, but not that low. So, whatever. The other way to keep it from drooling is stay on the gas more. But the reality is, us woods riders, that's kind of hard to do, and us scared people like myself, we just can't go that fast. So, but that is how, if you want to get rid of the drool, that's one of the ways, is to try to get the lowest flash point oil you possibly can, and that would be good. The flip side to that, though, is if you are really hard on a motor, like you're racing Supercross, you're racing stuff with high RPM, got to be careful with that low flash point oil because you'll burn it out of there and you won't get the lubrication that you need. So it's a whatever. Crosspower 2T is my choice. I like it a lot. All right, guys, what do you think? Was that enough riling up of of the internets here? Because I hope it was. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me for another huge dirt biker video. I know it's been a little while since I've posted one. I've been busy. Have lots of things going on with the whole channel getting hacked and all that crap. So sorry about that. We're going to try to get back to these things. I like getting you guys fired up, interacting on the internet. Try to be kind and understand that really these are just my opinions that I'm trying to shove down your throat. But the reality is you shouldn't listen to people on the internet. Make your own decisions. Do your own research. All that good stuff. I love you guys. Get out and pop some wheelies.